Our next speaker, Linda Ikechukwu, has been a technologist for over 5 years. She's currently a developer advocate at Small Step Labs, where she creates content to help developers, DevOps engineers, and IT admins understand the value of and adopt their end-to-end encryption platform. Outside work, you can find her learning to play the guitar. She didn't say poorly, so I don't know if that's a dig on Ryan. Singing uninvited at karaoke bars, I'm sure everybody's still a big fan, or playing tennis. She dreamed of watching Serena Williams play live at a US Open tournament, but now that Serena's retired, that will have to remain an unrealized dream. Oh. Well, here to make our dreams come true of learning about myths, mistakes, and missed opportunities, lessons learned from a year of interviewing technical writers, please help me welcome Linda to the stage. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Wow, it's truly an honor to be here today. I've been a part of the Write the Docs community for over 2 years now, and I've looked forward to attending one of these events. And the fact that I get to attend and speak my first time here is like super excited, and I hope you can smell the excitement in me from here. Okay. Yeah, she has kind of introduced me, and yeah, I hope to, I don't know if it's a thing, but I hope to become a professional karaoke singer on the side someday. Just, go to karaoke bars and just serenade people. Okay, what is this talk about? Last year, I kicked up an interview series, which I called Tech Content Creator Series. And the plan was simple. So every month, I'll connect and interview experienced technical content creators with diverse titles. I talk to technical writers, documentation engineers, content designers, content strategists, and a bunch of other different titles. And through last year, I went on to interview about 10 seasoned technical content creators, and they generously shared valuable lessons that they've learned while climbing the career ladder, their toughest hurdles, how they surmounted these hurdles, mistakes that they made during their careers that they would avoid if they were to do it all over again. And they also helped me answer some very crucial career questions that most people who are trying to get into tech writing or the tech content creation industry have. And yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about today. So why did I go through the trouble of doing that? There's a short answer, and the short answer is that I wanted to bring more visibility to and kind of like showcase technical writing and other tech content creation roles as like viable and exciting career paths. And I knew that the best way to do that was to showcase people who are successful at these careers so that, if you're looking to get started, you would have inspiration on how to proceed. But there's a longer story to that anyway. And the long story is this. Look around this room. There is barely anybody that looks like me here. Nice, really nice. Yesterday I walked into writing day and I stood at the door for a very long time, like really long time, because I didn't see any black person there, so I just didn't know how to go in until I met Anissa. I don't know if she's here. And that was what propelled me to go in. So tech content creator roles are not very popular with the African population. And it's very simple. It's like a very simple course. And the thing is that for example, in Nigeria where I live, when people think of getting started in tech, their first intuition is to learn to code because that's like the most popular part. That's like the popularized part of getting into tech. And so you find people that have great communication skills and would naturally excel as tech writers or tech content creators, going to learn to code, even though that's not what they originally wanted to do, just because they want to work in tech, because let's face the facts, the tech industry is quite lucrative, so people just want to work in tech too, because we have bills to pay. So why there are boot camps that exist for software engineering, product design, product management, there are hardly any for technical writing. So, I mean, I had a similar experience. I started my career as a software engineer. I did that for a while. I wasn't bad at it. Did that for a while, but I'd always known that, I liked teaching, I liked writing. I mean, I was always top of my class for like essays and English and all that. But then I started coding, and my day job was just go write code. It was giving me money, but that's not what I wanted to do anyway. But I found a way to like let out my creative side. I started a programming blog where I used to document things I was learning and use like analogies to try to help me solidify my knowledge. And after some time, one of my articles like went viral on Twitter. I wrote about how to understand serverless using the example of booking an Uber ride. And that kind of went viral, and I had like tech publications reach out to me like, hey, would you like to write articles for us and get paid? I was like, really? So I can get paid for writing in tech? That's interesting. So that experience kind of led me to switching from full-time development to tech writing, because I mean, I was having more fun while I was writing these articles compared to my day job where I was coding. So I switched. Yeah, this story is quite long. Just bear with me. I'm getting to the end. After that experience, I was quite vocal about that transition on Twitter. And so I had people, my audience on Twitter is basically African people reaching out to me like, oh, really? So you can make money from writing in tech? And I've been coding, but I don't really want to do this. Like, I mean, I prefer writing. So I had people reach out to me to ask questions and guide them. And that kind of opened my eye to the fact that there was an awareness problem of the tech writing industry in the African populace. So I decided that I was going to do something about it, which is by sharing the story of other successful tech writers, because I realized that if I wanted to strongly promote the viability of a career in tech writing, I needed to tell the story of all those successful tech writers and to kind of provide people who are in doubt with many references. And that's when the idea for the interview series I did came. And so one Sunday morning, I was idly scrolling through Twitter, like I always do, instead of going to be productive. I came across Amy Bond's tweet. She tweeted about how she had been promoted from technical writer to senior content designer at GitHub. And that was, that got me curious. And I was like, wait, there's something like content designer in tech. That's interesting. So I reached out to her and I decided to do my first interview on her. And that was how the whole thing started. Okay. That's strange. Okay. So that's after interviewing Amy, I spoke with several other accomplished tech content creators, and they shared a lot of insights with me. And aside from the question of how to get started as a technical writer, 6 other career questions that were very popular with my audience, which I'm pretty sure that most people in this room have asked at some point in their career. Could be, I have an upcoming tech writing interview. What can I do to stand out? How can I level up as a tech writer without software engineering skills? How can I get more deals or find more clients as a freelance technical writer? As a tech writer, I've done that for a while, and I'm thinking of transitioning. What other roles or what other titles can I transition to? And how can I get from senior writer to management? And how can I work with, noisy developers who think that technical writers are of no value? Yeah, so today, I will be trying to answer these questions from the view of all the awesome people that I've had the privilege of interviewing. And my hope is that you'll be able to pick up 1 or 2 pieces of advice that will be helpful to you and apply to your own career. So, kicking off with the first one, how to stand out for a tech interview. Meet Alexandra White. Alexandra is a technical writer at Google. She's currently a technical writer at Google. And before she interviewed at Google, it was a fierce interview, like competition. I mean, it's quite difficult to get into Google. And she had only previously worked for very small startups, and so she felt like she would not stand a chance. But she did something that in one of her interview stages that her manager later on revealed to her was actually the reason why she was hired amongst the several other applicants that they had. And what was that? So she took a blog post that she had written a few years ago and applied a style guide to it. And she submitted both the old blog post and the new one with the style guide applied, along with a document detailing all the changes she made and why those changes were necessary. And this seemed like a really good tip. And according to her manager, that was what made her stand out, because other people just kind of like submitted different types of like tech documents without any like explaining, okay, their thought processes towards things, but she took the time to explain her thought process, and that was what made her stand out. So if you're interviewing for a role soon, you might consider borrowing that from her playbook. Other advice that she had was use the exact verbs included in the job posting on your resume. Also include different tech writing doc samples and like API reference docs, blog posts, video documentation works fine too. Use as many metrics as possible on your resume, because recruiters want to see how much of an impact you've made in your previous roles. And she recommended getting a writing certification if you can. And she mentioned that Google has a very interesting technical writing course. And so I asked her the question of, okay, what about people getting into tech writing and they don't have a portfolio or like samples to show? And this was her advice. She said, create documentation for an open source project, go to GitHub, look at projects and see if you can write documentation for any, or write simple documentation for very popular products. Next up, for leveling up as a tech writer without software engineering or like development experience. Because the deal is that most times when tech writers who do not have like engineering backgrounds sit down to talk to engineers, their major challenge is a knowledge and terminology gap, usually the terminology gap, which kind of inhibits understanding. And so to answer this question, I had Jared. Sorry, I might have pronounced that wrongly. And he might be in the audience somewhere. Yeah. So, Jared is a staff technical writer at Waymo, and he's also the author of one of my favorite books on technical writing, Docs for Developers. So I reached out to him, and for this question, he used to be an engineer and then transitioned to tech writing, so he seemed like the perfect person to answer this question. His advice: learn some fundamental programming language and learn just enough to build a small app and get basic understanding of how things are built. Because the truth is that you're going to interact with different platforms and communicate with professionals who know various programming languages. So being able to relate with the terminologies that they are going to throw around and understanding basic principles of a programming language will help. Now, for the question of which programming language to pick, it helps to just learn the most popular or learn whatever language is used for your product or the company that you're working with. You don't have to go deep into this, just enough to understand what you're doing, because you don't have to be a developer to actually be a great technical writer. So yeah, this was one quote that I really resonated with from my interview with Jared. And he said, a solid and basic understanding of how things work would help you bridge that technical gap between you and your engineers. Thank you, Jared, for talking to me one more time. I know I said thank you previously in the past, but yeah, again, giving you a shout out from the stage. Okay. Yeah. For people here who are freelancers, on the Write the Docs freelance channel, there are over 900 members there. So I'm guessing that this is something relevant. Meet William. William has a very interesting background, which I can't state everything here, but there's practically nothing that William hasn't done, except being a dancer, maybe. But like, very interesting background. But so alongside, he's currently a product manager now, but alongside that, he runs a technical content marketing agency called Hackmamba. And Hackmamba works with a couple of high-ranking clients. So in my interview with him, I asked him how he's able to, regularly recruit these clients and convince major organizations that what he has to offer them is valuable. And his advice was very, controversial, but here's what he said. He said, do things for free. I'm like, dude, you realize that freelancers are trying to make money and time is money. And he's like, yeah, do things for free. So, of course, this should be practiced like within certain limits and constraints. But then his summary of his advice was, find people that you want to work with within these companies. This could be like the people bearing the title of like developer advocate, the marketer, or the content strategist. Somebody that you want to, that you will directly work with within these companies as a freelance technical writer and offer to help them. You could help them like review things that they write, edit it, whatever. He reveals that most of the clients he's gotten, he has sometimes had to write and publish articles for these companies on his platform. And his goal with these articles was usually to encourage some sort of metric or conversation or sign up. So after writing the article, he would attach like UTM parameters with Hackmamba as the UTM source. And so every time that someone on the end of the organization, every time there's like an interaction with the article he has written, someone at that end of the organization sees it and starts wondering, what the hell is Hackmamba? And then they usually end up reaching out to him, and that's how he got like gigs with Cloudinary, Auto, and a couple of high-paying companies. Yeah, so this was something that he said that really caught my attention, and he was like, volunteering has played a very significant role in his life, and he would volunteer for anything knowing that he wouldn't be paid. Yeah, so if you're building your career, you need to do things for free, which is still weird. Anyway, but that's how you get influential people to notice you, because everyone likes free stuff, and it's an opportunity to show people what you can offer. Like, it may not lead to an outright commitment, but whatever the outcome, it's always an entry point. Now, another person I spoke to who gave me some sort of answers to this was Cynthia. Cynthia is a technical writer with a company called AtSign, but I actually found her via Upwork, where she has like a very thriving freelance practice on Upwork. And so I did ask her, how are you able to do this? Because I know that Upwork is quite competitive, so how are you able to, constantly keep a stream of clients? And she had this to say: bring your bio down to a niche, because on Upwork, employers are looking for very specific titles, like API documentarian, technical content strategist, whatever it is, just bring it down to a particular niche, because don't just put technical writer or writer on your profile. That's what she said. And then she mentioned starting with lower price gig, because people will only give you jobs on Upwork when you already have reviews to show for what you've done. And she mentioned that her first Upwork gig was paid $5. And she didn't mind, because the client gave a 5-star rating review, which then afterwards helped her land other gigs. And then she also said something about making sure that the first two lines of your proposals are catchy, because of the way the Upwork employer dashboard is designed. And also to include keywords that employers put out in their ad into your proposal. Insights on transitioning roles as a tech writer. So if you're a tech writer and you've been working in the field for a while and you're finding yourself getting bored with your current role, and then you're wondering, what's available for me from here on? Don't worry, you're not alone. There are many professionals out there who have successfully transitioned from technical writing to other roles and found them exciting. And one of such people is the first person I mentioned in my story, Amy Bonds, and she's currently a senior content developer at Vessel. She has over a decade of experience as a tech writer, and while she started out as a tech writer at GitHub, she eventually transitioned to the role of content designer within GitHub. Amy transitioned because she found herself getting more interested in user research and understanding what users actually needed from the GitHub documentation. So I asked her what she did to, aid her transition. And she told me just one thing. She was like, yeah, talk to your manager, really. So if you're considering a transition, she found that by discussing her interests and preferences with her manager, they were able to create a new role that was a better fit for her. So she advised that this could be a great way to start exploring new opportunities within your current company. So do not be afraid to speak up, because it could lead to exciting new possibilities. Yeah, and she had this to say, which I agree with, that the easiest way to transition roles is within the company you already work for. Another person who transitioned from technical writing to a different role is Ruta Renade, which is one of my favorite people anyway. She's currently the docs lead at Airbyte, And she went from being a technical writer for over 10 years to developer advocate at Cockroach Labs. So Amruta did this very interesting thing. She transitioned to developer advocacy, and after a year, she went back to technical writing because she found out that she didn't actually enjoy developer advocacy. But the experiment was worth it, yeah. So after 10 years, she got bored, and she had moved from senior technical writer to staff technical writer, and it felt like she had climbed every available career ladder except for management, and she didn't want to do management, so she thought of switching to developer advocacy. And how did she do that? Well, just like Amy, she had just one thing to say: start doing the job. So alongside, while she was working as a staff technical writer at Cockroach Labs, she's there like doing this thing where every Friday she would do the job of a developer advocate. They didn't have a developer advocate then, but she kind of like researched what a developer advocate would normally do for companies. And she started doing the job at her company. And after like a year, she spoke to her manager and like, oh, see, I've been doing this thing. And this is why developer advocates are like necessary or like important for companies. And I want to transition into this role. How would that happen? And her company was generous enough to create that role for her. And that's how she transitioned into developer advocacy. And she mentioned that if you're looking to transition with transferable skills, other roles that you can transition into as a tech writer are product management, UX writing, and if you're up for it, management. So yeah, in her words, you don't become, and this was in alignment with her advice that if you want to transition, the best way to transition is to start doing the job, not waiting for when you get the title to start, performing that capacity. You perform in that capacity first, and then you're given the title. Next up is about transitioning to management. And for that, we have Jared again. Okay, so like I mentioned, Jared has been in several management positions at Google, and so he has like deep knowledge about doing this. But the answer will fascinate you. It's not that deep. Same thing as, what Amy and Ruta had to say. Talk to your managers, start doing the job. And he mentioned that the first step is to understand that managing is very different from working as an individual contributor, as a senior technical writer or a staff technical writer. And you have to realize that you'll be responsible for people reporting to you, and you'll be doing a lot less writing. And so talk to your managers if there is a performance review coming up and you're expecting that, let them know on time and start doing the job of coaching, mentoring, navigating organizational issues, having had conversations, setting standards, advocating for technical writing within your company, because that's exactly what you'll be doing as a manager. So yeah, this is a quote from him that I really liked. He said, you get a promotion when you're already performing at that level. It's not an, oh, come and do this job. It's an, oh, you're already doing this job. All right, here's the title to go with it. And then my favorite part about this, because working with managers or engineers who do not understand the value of tech writing. So if you've ever asked the question like, oh, my manager or the engineers I work with don't understand my role or my value as a tech writer, how do I work with them? How do I navigate this challenge? For that, I had Elisa Sawyer. And Elisa is a documentation architect with over 20 years of extensive technical writing experience. And she's been a contractor for several organizations, and so she has had to work with a lot of direct reports, a lot of engineers, and she seemed like the right person to ask about this because she had a lot of experience working with people from diverse backgrounds and engineers. So she mentioned that she had worked with software developers who would say something like, why do we need technical writers when developers write self-documenting code? Or the docs are basically what we engineers tell you. Anyway, so if you've ever faced a been in a similar situation, she did share some insights on what to do. And so she suggested, this is not the advice I like the most, but just wait till we get to that part. She suggested educating them and helping them understand that as a writer, you're not generally solving the same problems as full-time coders, because solving coding problems is the domain of full-time coders. Solving communication problems is the domain of communications professionals. And she also suggested pointing them to authoritative information on best practices for tech writing, and mentioning that some managers can, team members actually respond well to helpful tips. It could just be that they are confused and it's not coming from like a place of, trying to misunderstand you or not seeing your values, just simply that they don't understand, and helping them understand might bring good results. Otherwise, honestly, just clap back at them with like, if great developer-facing documentation was easy to write, it would definitely be far more common, yeah? So, anyway, that's like the last question here. Summary is, and that's like all the insights I can provide today. I try to be time conscious. Summary is that whether you're looking to level up as a tech writer, find clients as a freelancer, or transition to management, I do hope that, now that I think about it, you have actually laughed quite a lot, so I might even consider becoming a comedian. Anyway, I do hope that the insights I've shared today has given you some ideas on how to proceed if you are facing any of the challenges that I shared. And yeah, good luck, honestly. Yeah. Anyway, before I go, if you have any career-related experiences that you'd like to share and wouldn't mind being interviewed by me for my series, please come talk to me, because I want to talk to more people with diverse experiences and diverse stories, because it's really helping a lot of people. I've had people send me feedback through my newsletters or through my buy me a coffee form on my website, and they're always like, hey, thank you for this story. I mean, I had someone who was getting back into the industry. I think there was a slide on that after 20 years, and she read a story of Elisa Sawyer, and she reached out to me like, hey, thank you for this. I mean, I really gained a lot from this, and it has given me some direction on how to approach getting back into the industry. So please come talk to me. I want to talk to more people. I want to document the stories of more people and lessons from other people's careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, Linda, come back. We want to know more. See, we're not done with you. Got questions. Thank you so much for that talk.
Yeah.
It was so interesting to hear such a wide variety of opinions, and I wanted to thank you especially for what you said at the very beginning. I think it's so easy to think about all the great things that we've done as a community to feel like a community, that it's easy to forget what it's like, that there are still lots of people who feel like outsiders, and it's so important, the work that you've done to help people see that they can be here too and do this work too. And yeah, so I think that's really amazing, and I wanted to thank you especially for that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, if I had free hands, I'd be clapping so hard. I had a question about just what the response has been, because I know that there are so many different paths into tech writing. I think people find that kind of scary sometimes because they're just so... It can be hard to know how to direct your own efforts when people have come in from so many different directions.
Yeah.
So when people are reading all of these stories, do they ever say, Linda, this is too much, I don't know what to do with it? Or does it inspire them maybe?
It's from the feedback I've gotten, it inspires them because there are people tend to find a particular story that they can relate with, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm actually at this stage. Wow, so you mean I can do this? Yeah, thank you. So it's usually very inspiring feedback that I've gotten. Yeah, it's always from the inspiring side.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that. I've got some questions from the audience. During your interviews, what common traits did you see in successful tech writers?
I would say that they were willing to take risks and they kept on learning. That's really just it. They just kept on, at every point. Elisa gave, I didn't share that, but she gave like a really great advice on how technical writers should constantly reach for self-improvement courses. She even recommended going for creative writing courses if you find any, because she did take one and it helped her like introduce a different angle to her job. So it's that they're constantly learning and they're open to risk.
Is there anything you found out that surprised you from these interviews, other than people doing stuff for free?
I would say Alexandra, this is not career related, but after work hours, she performs she does theater performances. I thought that was cool. So it's like her pushing for work-life balance because tech pays her bills, but then theater makes her happy. So she's combining both.
And some people are tennis stars.
Yeah.
And karaoke stars.
Moonlighting as karaoke stars, actually. I'm not there yet, but I hope to get there.
Yet. Keep your eyes peeled. That's why you put your Twitter on, so
yeah,
you remember us when you're famous. Somebody's wondering, how have all of these real stories shaped your own career? Do you find that you're more confident in your own writing and your advocacy for other writers?
Yeah. So I may have shared that it may have sounded like I've been doing these interviews for non-selfish reasons. There's a selfish angle to it.
Both
because, I mean, the interviews help me first before it helps any other people, so any other person. So it's usually, I learn a lot from these people, and the fact that I get to like speak to them one-on-one has really shaped my career.
Yeah. That's great. We've got one more question. For people who, this is from Michael, for people who are having trouble convincing management to let them build up and spread that mentorship to other teams, do you have any advice on how to sell that idea a little bit better?
This isn't a challenge that I have faced because I have worked with like really amazing managers. My manager is here.
Oh, hi.
I've worked with really amazing managers, so it's not something that I can comment on at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Are you open to people coming up to you and asking
Yes,
questions?
definitely. I think I mentioned that. Yes, please.
And signing up for interviews.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.
We have another hand for Linda. Thank you so much. What a great talk.